Good morning. Wow, those lights are bright. I am blown away to see such a full room of dedicated conservationists from all across the U.S., the states, the territories. Thank you all so much for being here in Las Vegas. Thank you, Tim, for that introduction. It's a real pleasure to serve with Tim as the national president, to serve with the other officers, to serve as your CEO. It's just a real joy to work with such a talented group of leaders from across the country. And I also wanted to make special mention about Tim. That first map that he showed up there, all those black dots, he really has been everywhere. I think about 75% of those are Tim's. So he's done a great job getting out, meeting with folks. I know he's passionate about that. So Tim, thank you for that. Also wanted to recognize all the folks that I know support you back home, Shelley and family, and the work that they're doing to support you as our national president. So let's give Tim a big round of applause. So welcome to Las Vegas and to NACD's annual meeting. My name is Jeremy Peters, and I am NACD's Chief Executive Officer based in our Washington, D.C. office. I've been with NACD now since 2006. I've been serving as the Chief Executive Officer since 2015, and it's just my honor to serve such a dedicated group of people working every single day in communities across the country to protect, to conserve, to restore our natural resources. My hat's off to you every single day. Also, I serve as the Executive Director for our National Conservation Foundation, our sister organization that is doing great work to educate our youth and to bring along the next generation of conservation leaders. Also serve as the Vice Chair of Field to Market. We've got Field to Market folks in the room with us in Las Vegas today, and it's my pleasure to serve within that organization to represent conservation districts, to represent you with all of the partners, the companies that are part of that value chain. We have such an amazing agenda in store this week. We're in Vegas, baby, so buckle up and get ready. We've got a lot of fun ahead. We wouldn't have such a solid program if it weren't for the great work of our national staff team, and they've been recognized a couple times, but I cannot stand up here before you this morning without, again, giving some recognition to our national staff. So if our staff would please stand. Let's give them a round of applause. They do such a great job. They support me in my work. They support our officers. They support our board, our committees. So I cannot say enough about the great work that the national staff does. We've also had a great partnership with the Nevada Association of Conservation Districts in hosting this meeting. So I would also like to ask Maggie Orr, Connie Lee, Jake Tibbetts, A.G. Smith, and Jarrett DeCourt to also please stand. Let's give them a big round of applause. We had a really neat opportunity on Friday as folks were arriving. Staff and our executive board had been here for a day or two already. And I just wanted to mention the choir that sang the national anthem, such a beautiful rendition, excellent job. They're one of the first recipients of the Urban Agriculture Conservation Grants back in 2016. And we went out and did a service project with them on Friday morning. And it's just so remarkable to see how that community has sustained that project and kept it going. It is truly an oasis in the middle of the desert. So just wanted to mention that. And again, appreciate Zion United Methodist Church for being part of our program this morning. Our theme this week focuses on conservation innovation, working from the roots up. And President Palmer has talked about that theme. I'd like to further expand upon it some. Innovation is something we're seeing at a rapid pace in conservation. New practices, systems, tools, and technologies are being developed and deployed daily with the goal of improving conservation adoption and implementation. we have no choice but to innovate. The world population is growing, and demands on our natural resources are greater than ever to provide and sustain for the 9 billion people that will call our planet home by 2050. That's only 30 years away, folks. We've got a lot of work to do, a lot of innovation that needs to occur to be ready for those little ones that will be coming. We see evidence every day of the stress on our resources and the natural systems that make life sustainable. More wildfires, stronger storms, deeper droughts, and increased global temperatures are all impacting our resources and the healthy soils, clean water, and abundant habitat on which life depends. As our population grows and demands as people grow, there is greater competition for resources, including land and water, for the goods, products, food, and shelter that we increasingly want instantly delivered right to our doorstep with a swipe of a finger. Think about that. The power that we possess within our devices, our gadgets. We can have anything we want delivered right to our door. With innovations in technology and logistics, it's literally possible to order something and have it delivered from across the country that very same day. A little story, my wife and I have gotten into bird watching the last few years. And I can't talk about our interest in bird watching without mentioning that we're losing bird populations at an accelerated rate. A recent study that came out in 2019, just one of the impacts that I'm describing from the stress on our natural systems, and it's one of those resource concerns that we have to do more to address. The bird that's up on the screen there is a rose-breasted grosbeak that my wife and I photographed at a stream in a neighborhood park in Alexandria, Virginia, where we live. We used to go to this park with our kids before we really got into bird watching, and in the springtime we used to marvel at the migration of bird watchers through the park. If anyone's ever observed bird watchers, they are a rare breed with all of their gadgets and cameras and hats and guides and stuff. We used to go have fun just watching the bird watchers. And now we're those people. So this is my wife's favorite species, the rose-breasted grosbeak. She likes them because they're so striking. Beautiful plumage. They're fairly large birds. This picture doesn't do it justice, but you can get a little bit of scale just by looking at it in the stream there. But she also likes them because they're very hard to see. They're elusive. They don't show themselves easily. So it's a challenge. It's a bit of a challenge to capture one. And they love to come to the stream in this park where they can get a drink, where they can bathe, cool off. But they mostly prefer to stay higher up in the tree canopy. So they're way up in the top. And their migratory pattern from Mexico to Canada means that they usually only pass through our neck of the woods for about 1 week every April. So you really have to be paying attention. You've got to be out there. We understand now why those bird watchers are out there so religiously every morning, seeing what they can see and to get a glance at the migration coming through. And these birds are also very susceptible to spring heat waves, which can dramatically alter migration patterns and also affect the younger birds with higher mortality rates. So some years it's hard to see them at all. It can be a rare sight if you get one. So as we've gotten into bird watching, I decided a couple of years ago that I needed to upgrade to a new pair of binoculars because the ones that I had just weren't getting the job done. And I'm glad that I did because the difference is truly astounding. Just the colors, the details, everything that you can see from especially some of the warbler species they're tiny little creatures. And they're marvelous to look at. If you've never done it, I would encourage it. So, like most of us are prone to do, I went on to Amazon, found a pair that I liked, and as I was getting ready to purchase them, I saw that if I placed my order in the next 12 minutes, that delivery was guaranteed by 6 p.m. that day from Louisville, Kentucky to my home in Northern Virginia. Wow. 12 minutes. I was digging in my pocket, getting out my credit card, I've got to get on this. So I thought, let's try it out. Let's see if they can really do it. So I ordered the binoculars, went to work, came home that evening, and sure enough, there was a box sitting right on the doorstep with a little smile on it. Y'all know the box I'm talking about, right? You see those? It gives you a smile on your face. And it contained the binoculars that I had just ordered that very morning. I was astounded. And they've gotten better at that. You know, y'all probably have had that experience too. I'm not telling you anything new. But when I first did that a couple years ago, it was truly astounding that, you know, their logistics, their systems, all the services, the innovation that this one company has done to be able to instantly put something on my doorstep that I had just ordered that morning. It left me feeling empowered, I'll tell you that. But it also left me with this lingering feeling that somehow my world had gotten a little bit smaller and somehow a little bit diminished. It was almost too easy. New tools and technologies online are delivering products and information more quickly than ever before. And some days it can almost be overwhelming. And yet, with this greater connectedness and convenience, where the world is literally at our fingertips, I think we can intuitively feel that something is missing. As 2019 drew to a close and we started a new decade in 2020, writer Joseph Bernstein penned an article for the website BuzzFeed titled, "Alienated, Alone, and Angry, What the Digital Revolution Really Did to Us." So I had to click on it, right? I couldn't pass up a headline like that. Mr. Bernstein, in his article, he reflected on the explosion of digital technology since the early 2000s and all the promises and hope that folks had for those technologies as they were coming online to cure some of the social ills that we were experiencing, the lack of political discourse, the partisanship. In the article, Mr. Bernstein writes about the dilemma of how technology has increased connectedness and convenience, and yet has also left humanity increasingly feeling disengaged and distrustful. That's quite the dilemma. These tools that should be bringing us together, in many ways, are pushing us apart. And I know you feel that in your communities. We don't have to look too far to see that happening. Bernstein argues that some technologies have taken meaningful forms of engagement and made people feel less empowered and more alone than ever, seizing some of the best, noblest human instincts. Instincts like to share, to know, to connect, to belong, to trust. And have instead harnessed those noble instincts in a system of profit. Trust is perhaps the most important of these instincts. And if Mr. Bernstein is correct that we are becoming an increasingly distrustful humanity, then I would argue that perhaps some of the greatest innovations we could seek involves connecting with people in real and meaningful ways. After a year in which we have seen historic floods wipe out crops in entire regions, followed by sustained pressures on commodity prices, increasing levels of mental and emotional stress on landowners, documented increases in suicides, when everything is going wrong and nothing seems to be going right, people need to be reassured that they can take positive steps to help themselves and their land. They need assurance that there is assistance available to them in their local community from their local conservation district. It is people, helping the land, and building that trust. NACD is working to build that trust through the pillars of our mission statement, through advocacy, education, and partnerships. Through partnership efforts, we are delivering coordination with the support of our national conservation partners at the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the National Association of State Conservation Agencies, the National Association of Resource Conservation and Development Councils, and the National Conservation District Employees Association, through a venture that we call the National Conservation Planning Partnership. We're working to build additional capacity to deliver conservation solutions in communities all across the nation through our 3,000 local conservation districts. We are doing this through our technical assistance grant program to increase technical assistance and boots on the ground. We are doing this through another round of the urban agriculture conservation grants, which we just announced. We are doing this through increased technical training and conservation planning boot camp, and we are doing this through continued investment and engagement in our Soil Health Champions Network. How many Soil Health Champions do we have in the room? Raise your hand. All right, big shout out. I'm a fan of these guys and gals. Let's give them a round of applause. These are our innovators. These are people that have been experimenting and practicing and researching new practices, new ways on their land, on their farms, on their operations. And we've got 200 more like them just across the country. It's been a fantastic network to see it grow. For anyone that was at the coffee yesterday morning with the Soil Health Champions and heard some of those testimonials about their experiences, the things that they've had success with, their struggles, it's powerful. I encourage you to visit with them. They all have a badge on their registration badge that designates them as a Soil Health Champion. Go up and introduce yourself. Spend some time talking with them. NAC is also doing this through our education programs, like our Stewardship and Education Program, Annual Stewardship Week celebration, and with our sister organization that I mentioned, the NCF, through programs like Envirothon and our newly launched Next Generation Leadership Institute. We're also building trust through advocacy, ensuring that decision makers understand these issues in their communities and are equipped with the knowledge and information needed to make strong policy decisions and provide resources for continued conservation delivery. We do this through grassroots education, advocacy, leveraging the local knowledge and expertise of our conservation districts through events like our annual legislative fly-in in Washington, D.C., but also, more importantly, by encouraging conservation district field days, listening sessions, farm tours, and educational events to showcase for decision makers why conservation is important. In just a few minutes, you'll hear from Chef Jose Andres. Chef Andres is an internationally recognized entrepreneur, culinary innovator, and humanitarian, working to end hunger and poverty by using the power of food to empower communities. I have to share on Thursday, the officer team and I visited Chef Andres' restaurant, Jaleo, over at the Cosmopolitan just across the street. And we really enjoyed the experience, tasting the different dishes that is on the menu, the Taste of Spain that the chef showcases. It was a wonderful experience. We had a great evening. I also had the pleasure of watching Chef Andres throw out the opening pitch in Game 5 of the World Series this past year, back in October. And let me tell you, this guy has a mean fastball. And Chef, I think even though our Nationals maybe lost that game, they probably should have kept you on the mound a little bit longer. But we ultimately won the series, and someone mentioned the Chiefs earlier. I've got to give a shout out to the Nationals, World Series champs. That was great. Woo! So as I close, just a few thoughts. Technology is no doubt creating powerful innovations in the way we live and do business. And there's no doubt that we need to appropriately harness those technologies in conservation. We have to do it. We have to evolve. We have to continue looking for new ways to reach customers, to improve their experience, to get conservation on the ground. But we also work in a field that relies on those noble human instincts. Conservation doesn't happen without people. It takes buy-in, it takes support, it takes trust. People have to be willing to share, to know, to connect, to belong, to trust, in order to get conservation adopted and practices on the ground. Time spent walking the land with landowners, talking about resource concerns, reviewing conservation plans on the hood of the pickup or the kitchen table, sharing, knowing, connecting, belonging, trusting. That is what we do as conservation districts. That is what our conservation partners do at the federal, state, and local level. And it is needed more than ever, working from the roots up. Enjoy your time in Las Vegas. Enjoy your annual meeting. Thank you again for being here.